So I have a memory of being a child looking through school books and seeing these weird diving suits that looked like spacesuits. They looked like spacesuits that, you know, people would have worn in the past. And I wasn't quite sure what they were. They looked otherworldly, creepy and weirdly utilitarian. But they weren't something you really saw on the TV. Maybe reminded me stuff from like The Abyss or something like that. And someone would be inside these claustrophobic little suit to go down to the bottom of the ocean because of pressure, that you would need to have something solid around you. And these things have loads of little tiny windows for the person inside to look around through, you know, with these big chunky arms and tiny little useless hands and things like that, kind of like that. And if you look at some of these deep sea diving suits didn't even have legs, you know, because why would you need legs? You need some sort of engine to move you around. And it turns out they've been around for ages, sort of since the 1860s, and you look back at some of these really old designs and they look really weird. They're kind of slightly nightmarish, steampunky things. But I like them for that, because they are the thing that they are. They're not trying to be clever. Anyway, because my Stargrave crew was like a year old, I decided to start a new one, you know, and see where that would get. And so these suits seemed like the obvious kind of thing that I should be basing my new crew around, yeah? But why, I hear you ask? Well, the issue I had was that some spacesuits and robot suits you see nowadays are just a little bit too sexy, you know, a little bit too well designed. I mean, they look cool, like, it's really good, it's really well designed. I don't think I could necessarily do that. See, if I was designing a spacesuit, it wouldn't look like that. And also, don't get me started on Iron Man, because his suit's way too thin. I don't care how, like, good your alloys and metal and engineering is. If you've only got like a few mil of metal protecting you, it's not going to protect you from anything. Whatever the metal, the strongest metal, it's not going to work, is it? It's stupid. That is why I've decided to make a non-sexy, utilitarian, possibly realistic-ish looking spacesuit that people might want to use in, you know, wargaming, pretend sci-fi tabletop wargaming. And furthermore, as we learn more about exoplanets and places outside our solar system, like other planets we would visit, going to look nothing like Earth or even just like Mars. These are nice, safe places. Even like Venus in our own solar system has like sulfuric acid clouds and is incredibly hot. For example, exoplanet HD 189773b, it rains glass sideways on that planet because it's so close to its sun, yeah? It's massive, huge amount of gravity, it's going to cripple your bones. So some sort of bit of fabric between you and deep sea ocean, massive gravity, it's just not going to work, is it? We need to be more like atmospheric diving suits. That's what we need to be more like, isn't it? Think about it like that. That's what a spacesuit in the future would look like. So this is what I propose, yeah? Miniatures that look like deep sea atmospheric diving suits. So I made a load of thick suits, yeah, with chunky bits on. That's always useful, so that the atmospheric pressures or underwater, planets have oceans. There's no reason to think you'd be in a gas environment when you're on a planet, would you? It's not necessarily going to be all air. And lots of windows, so you can look around as well, you know, looking around, seeing stuff around you. Batman couldn't see stuff around him because he couldn't move his neck, yeah? Unless you've got some sort of hyper-advanced servo, which admittedly you might have in the future, I'd accept that. Then just windows to move your head around, that might be quicker, as long as the field of view's all right, you know. But who cares? It's the future. It's utilitarian. It's meant to be a bit wrong and nasty. That's the plan, isn't it? Plus, tiny hands. Tiny hands is important because you wouldn't be using your real hands. Gloves are rubbish, and making some sort of mechanical glove, that's going to be really difficult as well, because, you know, they're thin and you've got to put so much metal around them, which makes your hands really chunky. You know, no one's doing anything like that. So I propose little tiny pincers. And who says legs would be the best way of moving around in another atmosphere? We don't know what that planet is going to be like. So maybe some sort of motor or robotic leg would be better. In fact, if you have a much thicker, denser atmosphere than we have, then actually floating is probably a little bit easier than walking. So it's like what fish do. And some of the people, in the end, I put them in like a walking chair with robot arms, because like that's probably the easiest way. Why even try and put your arms into the arms? I realised by the end that's not the way you would do it, is it? You would have a robot arm and you'd sit there with a little gamepad, you know. Plus, I've also supplied them with various tools and bags for carrying things around, because I was really designing this for Stargrave, and that's what you need to do in Stargrave, is pick locks and pick up loot and stuff like that. It's a scavenger game for a large part of it anyway, so that's what I did there. But anyway, that's what I've decided to do for my miniatures. I hope you like them. I've already painted them up, used them in a game, which I didn't lose. It's actually the video of the game is elsewhere on the channel, you know. And if you want these miniatures, I'll print them for you. Buy them from our website. It'll be somebody, probably me, almost certainly me, unless you're in America, printing it. So, you know, that is always an option. The links are below, or on eBay if you want to give them a cut of some money. But we do have a website, so you don't have to do that. In fact, it might even be cheaper on the website. Just saying, you know, it's your choice, isn't it? So, Deep Space Explorers are what they're called, and I think they're really good. And I've got them, and I've painted them, and that is why you shouldn't be using all these other spacesuit tabletop gaming models, because on certain characteristics they're not as realistic, and that is what you were going for, particularly, isn't it? You wanted a realistic plastic model. I mean, imagine having giant shoulder pads that restricted your movement of your arms. That would be inconvenient in a scavenging or battle situation, I would say. And so you don't want to have that. You would want robot arms and maybe a chair to sit in. Or, if you disagree, tell me why I'm wrong. I will argue back, possibly. I will argue back at some point. Definitely quickly, or later on. But in this situation, I'm convinced I'm right. So tell me why I'm wrong in the comments.
Like the video, follow me around. Press the bell, it makes no sound. Like the video, press subscribe. I don't know why I am alive.